On the Fist, the Street Fighter League live cast talk show. I'm your host, togashiazrael. And today, the panel and I will dive into... Wow, I forgot the entire script that I wrote. We are going to dive into Match Day 1. Panelists over here. On the panel today, Vancouver Street Battle resident Fog Specialist. Currently the first seed in the TGS Canadian Pro Series. Commentator and technical analyst Mortsy. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just by a few points.
Is it just a few?
A couple points.
I mean, it's fine. About 700, just a few, yeah. He's only won, like, every weekly or came in second or something. Next, also from Vancouver Street Battle, the Walking Ninja character crisis of this week. Despite my personal reservations about Vega's status as a ninja, which I still don't think he is, because ninjas do not yodel. Another discussion for another time. Geki, what's up?
Not much. How are you?
Oh, he has to do it every time, doesn't he? All right, and finally... I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, Online Warrior Street Fighter V YouTuber who will scar your DNA with a single flash kick. SplicedHelix, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. What's up?
All right, so... Just a reminder, all video footage from today's livecast is used with permission from Capcom. Follow the Street Fighter League and the Capcom Pro Tour on Twitch at twitch.tv/CapcomFighters, on YouTube at youtube.com/CapcomFighters, and on Facebook Live, facebook.com/CapcomFighters. That is my disclaimer and getting stuff out of the way. Street Fighter League! Match Day 1, finally underway. 3 team battles to break down. Let's get started. First hits. I did it wrong. Of course I did it wrong.
You look like
Knuckle
a little
Dude
kid
popped
right
off.
now.
I've never seen Knuckle Dude pop off ever. That is crazy. That is so insane. Okay, team battle point here for Team Gale.
Justin not looking good right now. If anybody can do this, Justin can. Still with a charge shot. Crush counter sweep. This is where Rob TV usually gets started. And you can see him making a lot of hard reads right now with big buttons, thinking that Justin's going to do something, and it's not working out this time. This round looking a lot better. Trigger on the table this time, though.
Yeah, huge life lead there for Justin Wong. He's a lot more active when it comes to forward movement, but as soon as he gets that life lead, Rob TV knows it's time for me to take action. Look at her bleed. And it's only going to rack up even further, Steve. Back-to-back throws. This could be it. 3 throws in a row. Another throw! He goes for 4! Rob TV, 4 straight throws in a row. Hashtag don't take the throw, Steve.
Don't take the throw. Don't believe the propaganda, folks.
Oh, man.
That hurts my soul.
All right.
That was great.
So, now that you've seen it, ladies and gentlemen, Psycho, Brian F., Justin Wong. When I say those names, normally we're talking about people who are getting out of pools, doing really, really well at majors, and threatening top 8 entries. What happened to Team Spirit? Let's start with SplicedHelix.
That was hard to watch, man. You know, you got Justin. I mean, they took out Justin Wong. You know, Minot is nobody knows how to fight against Justin Wong's Minot because the dude gets too patient and he will just lame you out. They took that out and they had nothing. I mean, they banned Ibuki for Shine, but Shine was like, oh, I have this other character that I play that you don't know about, and he walked all over Psycho. Brian F. looked nervous the whole time. And Rob TV, I think Rob TV had a lot to prove just from being picked last, and they were like, oh, nobody wants Rob TV. He went off. And 4 throws in a row. Who does that? Rob TV does that. That's about it.
Yeah, Geki, defend your Week 1 prediction of Team Spirit. By the way, Geki did predict in the Draft Day episode that Team Spirit and the House of Lame, or the Church of Lame, I can't remember what you said, would win this entire thing. Not looking good for your boys. Geki, defend yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna back myself into a corner and just not defend myself at all and just throw them over the boat. They failed me, and I'm extremely disappointed. And I'm impressed with Team Gale, not only with how each of the members played against the opposing members, but I do agree with SplicedHelix. Brian F did look nervous. He did seem like he wasn't ready to go. I don't know what it was. Maybe lack of prep, whatever it was. Justin Wong, he literally gave away his whole game plan and his mental thoughts about how he executes his game plan. And Rob TV literally just did what he's weak to, which is throw him a bunch because he will never tech. Right? So I don't blame him for winning, right? And not only that, he was the most underrated player in the whole draft because, like you said, he was picked last, right? And on top of that, like, Shine's jury was so unexpected. No one was ready for that. So everyone would lose.
Mortsy.
I was ready for that, was what I was saying. I called it. I literally called it. Obviously, he can't play Karen because Rob TV. Am I being passed the torch here so I can brag?
Yeah, go.
He can't play Karen, which is his other secondary, right? Because otherwise, Rob TV gets stuck on Guile because I don't know if he has any other like sufficient characters. So they leave the Karen for him, which means that Shine gets the jury, which he has been practicing. But another thing, I don't know whether he would have won with the jury against the Balrog, or I don't know if Justin, if it had been a different order, I do wonder whether or not Justin would have picked Falk, or he would have gone with the Karen. I did find that interesting that instead of going for the Karen, he chose to go for the Falk, or even the Birdie that we have seen personally. We have personally seen. Whether or not he felt it was ready, obviously he didn't. Thought he could bring it back. What I really don't like is Justin's decision for the, like, it's fine if it was a one-up. If he was playing that match and that was it. But when you have to bring it back all the way as a character, you have to pick and you're locked. Chooses Falk? Like, is the matchup that good against Balrog and Jury that picking Falk was a better option than picking Karen? Or is it bad? Is the Karen matchup there bad enough where he wanted to pick the character?
Geki, rebuttal real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add. So the reason also why I think Justin lost is because he's using forward heavy punch with Falk, which is basically the same move as Vega's Buster Claw, which I'm very familiar with. It's extremely slow, extremely jumpable, extremely punishable on block if you're close enough, especially against a character like Karen. So he was spamming it way too much against a character that had great options for it.
But he can't necessarily punish actual on block. He has to. It's not like Buster Claw where you can punish it as a receiver.
No, you can.
Really?
Yep. It's a little bit smaller of a hurt box compared to Buster Claw, but it's the same effect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just think especially now that they can carry, I really like the Monopan because Justin has the ability to carry and don't give that to him. I called the Ibuki ban, man. I'm in there. I'm so happy with myself. But I also, like, NuckleDu is so good. It doesn't matter, like, what you ban on him because, damn, he has so, like, it wouldn't matter. You could ban his Cammy, and he's just going to come back, and then Shine has Ibuki. Like, this team is dope. This team is sick. And also, I know that Brian F despises the Cammy match, which makes it, like, he got screwed.
Yeah.
Like, even, like, the luck of the draw that they end up getting, where they got NuckleDu versus Brian F. That was perfect. Absolutely.
Well, Dude said that was the matchup they predicted.
Yeah. Like, they got the order that they needed in order to just crush that. And also, I don't think Rob TV is necessarily underestimated. I just think, like I said the last episode, where he just got drafted due to the way the draft proceeded. It wasn't necessarily due to skill or anything. So, yeah, Team Gale, they're sick. They're still sick.
All right, so we were talking about the character, or the player order, excuse me, for the last little bit. NuckleDu very, very smartly put himself in position number 2. We're going to take a look at another video clip real quick before we talk about our next topic.
This right here, this could be it. This could be a very important win right here for NuckleDu. Team Gale. Just inching his way forward, and he knows Brian F wants to stop that advancement, so he's hitting a lot of buttons. Tries to go for the reset once again. Like I said, NuckleDu's aware that he does not want to be in this corner. He knows that he wants to hit a lot of buttons, and he's using that to fish for those counter hits.
Oh, well, he found himself in the corner against the likes of Brian F. Now he's trying to keep him close as much as possible. Again, the activation, the confirm from the low forward into V-trigger. Excellent stuff from NuckleDu. Wait a minute, we might see some mix-ups. No, we didn't get the rest of the combo.
But what a confirm, though. I actually thought that was going to be really good. Went for the EX to kind of like bait it out, just a little too far under.
The whiff punish from NuckleDu. Still looking at match point, and the classic 2 stand short, walk back, crouch strong.
That feels pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So, on the flip side of the coin, let's talk about Team Gale. What was pivotal of, obviously we just touched on it in the last topic. We were talking about the order in which their players were selected. We're assuming, because we actually don't know. We are assuming that it's blind picked beforehand, because obviously they wouldn't go one team announces and then the other team decides to, counter announce based on whatever was selected. Was this a definitive statement win for Team Gale, and have they solidified themselves as the clear-cut favorites with their players and their character depth? Mortsy.
I have, from the beginning, thought that they were the best team due to their depth. Their character depth is pretty much unmatched, even with the ban system, especially with the ban system. Character depth is incredible. I do think that the results would have been much closer if they hadn't gotten the matchups that they did. I think that if Justin had gone earlier, they would have had a better chance, if that makes sense, where Justin would not, if Justin was going to pick Falk regardless, I think then it kind of messes with them, but I think his character decision ended up being due to, I have to beat everyone, I need to pick someone I can beat all 3 matchups, versus him just thinking about the matchup that he's currently playing. I think that would have lent itself a bit more, but I think Gale is going to, there's a 3-0 today, I think it's going to, they're going to crush everyone else. If they get, it's still hard though, because if you get the character matchups that just are really tough, or even player matchups that are tough, then it can honestly go any way. You can still carry, but if you end up getting stuck with a bad matchup where one of your teammates loses to someone that has a really strong matchup against whoever you're depending on to carry, then you're kind of just out of luck. So, yeah. I still think their Gale is still the strongest.
All right, SplicedHelix.
I think it's pretty much, they've set that they're a team to be reckoned with. It's, you look at the character bans versus the order. If you take out, let's say Rob TV's Karen instead, and you make him play Guile versus Nikali, Balrog, and Falk probably would have gone a lot different. Any of those characters, just from personal experience. But the bans are going to, the strategy for the fights is going to take precedence. As you saw with Justin and Manat, if they ban Manat every single week, I mean, regardless of if it's Justin Wong, unless he builds somebody up to be a secondary that's on the same level, then it's going to be the same outcome every single week. I think Gale is set up to where they have enough characters and enough skill to where it won't matter, except maybe for Rob TV.
Mortsy, rebuttal real quick.
It's not necessarily a rebuttal. It's more a question as to whether we know that it's already all done and they've filmed everything, or if it's happening over the time period. Because if it's not, and we can work under the assumption what we have is what we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Laura or Idom and Toy aren't developing a secondary over these few weeks. They're stuck with what they had. So, yeah, I don't know if we want to kind of work off of the assumption one way or the other. We're all consistent, but I think that it's all done. There's no more.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Geki, thoughts on Team Gale?
They surprised me. I not in a way that I didn't think they were strong or they were a threat, but just how not even close the match was against Team Spirit, which I thought was the second best team aside from maybe Punk's team, Team Inferno. but just like the domination, and not only that, they all are so comfortable in tournament. They are all consistent players in majors and ranking events, premier events, all that sort of stuff. They've been online and done the grind. Each of them, they're really diverse in many different situations. So I'm not surprised that they did well, but I'm surprised they did so well against Team Spirit and just completely blew them out of the water. Like, they had no chance.
If you were to pick any possible challenger for Team Gale, remember this is still week 1. They still have to play Spirit again, so there is another chance at redemption, of course, for Team Spirit. But if you were to pick any of the other 5 remaining teams, who would have the best shot at Team Gale, Geki?
See, it's interesting because I think I thought Team Spirit would give them the best matchup in terms of a challenge. It really makes me wonder, like, who would stand a chance. So in my eyes, I think maybe it would be, I think, Team Inferno or Team Frost, potentially. Just because Team Frost has a very unique playstyle with its players, and also their players aren't very well known, and they don't really play a lot of the players that are on Team Spirit or Team Gale. And Inferno is just an incredibly strong team. Broly Legs is completely underlooked and underestimated, I find. And JB and Punk are always good, and they play really good characters, have a ton of characters that they do use as well. So character banning is going to be hard, for sure.
All right, Mortsy, same question.
Yeah, I think Inferno's probably the best bet, mostly because Punk can just kill everyone.
Yep.
You probably ban Karen, regardless. I don't think you ever ban JB Rashid, because there are people that can beat JB, but Punk Karen is just another force entirely. And if you leave that up, it's just like Justin's Monat, where he'll win. He'll just beat everyone. So it's definitely, I still think Team Inferno has the best chance out of everyone to give them a really good run for the money. Or potentially maybe Psycho, honestly, just because they have weird-ass matchups.
All right.
Especially Mika. Yeah.
All right, SplicedHelix, last word.
I think it'd be down to Inferno or Frost. Inferno, I mean, I picked Inferno to win the whole thing, so I'd go with them automatically. But I think Frost, depending on how the bands go, I think they have a chance to.
All right. So, first attacks are done. That was the first matchup. That was between Team Gale and Team Spirit. And Mortsy has every right to be putting his hands in the air, correctly predicting that one. Right down to the bands. That was absolutely sick, by the way. That he predicted it right down to the bands. He predicted the ban on Minot. He predicted the ban on Ibuki. And he didn't predict the order of the players, but he got the matchups that made it work.
Dude, if I got that too, I am like the prophet. Thank you. Oracle Delphi. Like, damn. But yeah.
Top player.
All right, time for a little spend it or save it. Now that you guys have some meter, let's go over to the next matchup.
Dual Kevin is. He's legitimately just sitting there like mulling it over. He's like, what do I need to do to change the outcome right now?
He's definitely been in high-stakes situations a multitude of times in his game of expertise, right?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Oh.
Wow. Not over just yet.
Oh, that's a perfect! Yo, Punk has turned it on!
Hold this hot dog.
That was a pretty, I think it's like a record round here at the studio for Street Fighter League, right? So far he's setting the tone. Okay, I like that. Dual Kevin kind of walk into that normal to kind of force Punk to make that error.
Stuck in the corner. Punk taking his time. Activation off the croucher medium kick. It is blocked.
Yeah, that's what you got to be aware of. Is as soon as Cammy goes airborne, you can expect that dive kick.
Gets the jab. Confirmed into the mixer.
Out of there, yes sir. Doesn't want to eat any sort of pressure afterwards.
Defense solid from our boy Dual Kevin.
Using that whirlwind shot as the offensive opener.
Finally stopping that offense from dual Kevin. Now he's dashing up into the space. Ooh, and that's why you don't dash up into that space.
He's actually one back throw away, and he gets it. That's the. It's
He's
as
a
if I
psychic.
knew.
Oh, what the? How'd you know?
Easier to pick up brainwaves when you don't have hairs.
Oh, okay. All right, Professor Xavier over here. Let's go.
Down to the final round between these two. Here we go, 1-1 piece. You see that on the top of your screen, but it's still down to the wire here. Punk versus Duel. Kevin gets the confirm. Locking down Rashid, but no, he's gonna wake up EX spinning Mixer.
Okay, EX dive kick stays on the same side. There's a throw. You can tell the momentum is picking up for Punk. About half-life already going, a little gray life on top of it, and just cashes out, gets even more damage. About 35% left on that life bar over there for Duel Kevin. He needs this round.
A lot more active with standing medium kick to kind of control the pace against Duel Kevin because he likes to move forward. Yes, sir. EX spinning Mixer, great anti-air option to stuff that air approach.
Trigger available essentially for both once again. Ooh, tries to get the throw back dash. Nothing comes out for Punk. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. No, he's not going to spend the critical art. He went for the uppercut extender. Duel Kevin does have V-trigger on deck, though. Oh, and he mashed it out. He went for it. He didn't believe in the string. Wasn't going to give him the chance.
I'm gonna get this this shortcut thing eventually with the overlay. All right,
It's day one, man.
this is day one with this. We literally did this in pre-production. Anyways, that of course was the clincher for Team Inferno. That was over Team Frost. Punk taking down Duel Kevin 2-1. Going with the previous matchup strategy for Team Gale, Punk put himself in the second position. Both of his matches were close. He actually guaranteed himself 2 matches that way if one of his teammates lost. Both the matches, of course, were close, 2-1. Spend it or save it. Spend it if you believe Team Inferno's success is solely based on how Punk plays, or did the strategy employed by Team Inferno and player order luck work out favorably for Punk to dominate here, Geki?
I think it's honestly the Punk factor, man. Because I believe all of these players, except for Nephew, have not played Punk in any capacity before this. On this kind of stage, under this kind of pressure, and Punk is just a beast with any character, and let alone the way he plays with Cammy. Even though he's not a Cammy main, and he doesn't have any of the subtle nuances that Cammy mains do, or any of the matchup knowledge specifically that Cammy would have against certain characters like Rashid. Even Duel Kevin showing that he knows the matchup. Like, you notice at times he would try to run in to block a dive kick up close just so he'd be punished or punishable or not plus at least. And even with the V-trigger dive kick, even though he was short, he did try running closer, so if he got hit, if he blocked it, he wouldn't be able to throw. He'd have to dash up and throw to reach. But even with that alone, that's not enough to beat the Punk factor, which I think is clearly what he's established to the other team. And even Nephew, who's the captain, was nearly humiliated at one of the I can't remember the major. Can you guys maybe fill me in? What was the major?
The final round, or was it NCR? One of the two this season.
It was Red Bull, wasn't it? The Proving Grounds?
Was it?
It might, or the Red Bull Battlegrounds, I believe, something like that.
So it was last season?
The qualifier, the last season, yeah. So where
Okay.
he beat him with Colleen, in his own character. He destroyed him in grand finals. So I'm not surprised at all, and Frost was not ready.
All right, Mortsy. Same thing. Was it
Yeah.
Punk? Was it the strategy? Was it a little bit of it all?
Punk's dope. Oh man, Punk's so good. It's actually interesting while we were watching it, because I was thinking all the characters he plays have crouch medium kicks. They're all offered crouch medium kick characters. Who was the one I was missing though? It's Rashid, Cammy, Karen, one more. Oh, Colleen. Okay, so 3 of them. Never mind.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Throw in Akuma too.
I guess. I didn't even know he had an Akuma. Why would he play Akuma when he has that other roster of characters? Anyways, yeah, Punk's incredible, but I don't think we should count JB out. JB didn't even get to play the second game. I'd already beaten, from what I remember, yeah. Because he also beat, didn't he really beat Nephew badly? Was it? Well,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
4 rounds in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave Nephew the business, man. JB is also very strong, and chances are he's going to get to play Rashid for the entire time. I don't think there's anyone that's going to go, I can Punk on Karen. Like, unless someone's super confident, the issue, though, is that if they don't get matched up initially, that means they have to win their first match and then win a run back or win against Punk if Punk wins. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just depend on one person going. And I actually think some team is going to try it. Out of, you got, 10 matches of teams? You're going to face every team twice? Mm-hmm. Like, someone is going to try, hey, let's let Punk have Karen. And then that'll be really interesting to see. But, yeah, I think that both JB and Punk are strong. And Broly Legs is strong in his own right, but I don't think he's on the same level as the other two guys.
All right, SplicedHelix, he's your boy. He's our boy from our recent past. Let's talk about Punk a little bit. Was it Punk's dominance, or was it Team Inferno smartly strategizing, getting some luck?
I think it's not 100% Punk, but I think it's about 50. He's a monster. He's just a monster. You know, you've got two guys with him that are great in their own right, and it's a good, you know, think of Marvel 3. You have a good anchor character. Your first two can be taken out, you know, early in the match, and you'll still win. JB plays Rashid, you know, so Punk going up against a Rashid, he's got the practice, and JB just took it to Nephew so hard. And yet before the match even started, Punk called out Nephew, saying he's not even the strongest player on his own team, and that it should have been Up to Snuff's team, and he, you know, by the way it played out, it looked like he might have been right.
Yeah, that's a topic that we're actually going to touch on next. For some reason, we get the clips of Punk being amazingly entertaining. He has a high entertainment value here on Beyond the Fist, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. If it was a different character order, or different player order, let's say that Punk decided to employ the team spirit strategy and put himself in that third position, would JB have been able to win that clinching match? Let's start with Geki again.
Yeah, for sure. I think JB is extremely consistent, and I think he's much more confident than people give him credit for, even though he has a nice, you know, calm demeanor. It's not like a killer impression that he gives off, but he is no slouch in any regard when it comes to playing Street Fighter.
Mortsy, as a former Rashid player, if you were to see that matchup, it's Dual Kevin versus JB. Who do you got?
In the mirror. That's really interesting. I do have JB as well, because the issue is I played against JB actually a lot, or at least relatively a lot for a guy who doesn't necessarily play online that much, offline at the past 2 Canada Cups. I played him in the Rashid mirror when I was a Rashid player for like an hour playing games, and he dusted me. That was a long time ago, though, but what I do know is that he is a bit, like, he has OSs and has the presence of mind to use them when, like, against Rashid, V-reversal, stuff like that. Like, he has the setups and stuff with the save jumps. And I'm sure the issue is I don't know how much Dual Kevin knows about the music himself, or how much he plays it. Whether or not, Dual Kevin, is he East or West?
I think he is East. I think.
Yeah.
He is East Coast.
Yeah, I don't know who the Rashid is outside of Dual Kevin on the East Coast.
Well, it used to be JB. He used to live there, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Well, I don't know. But I would say, yeah, JB probably would have taken it just good. That dude is good. But he's not infallible, so it's not necessarily a beating, but it's like, I still think JB.
All right, last word, SplicedHelix.
I feel JB's probably the more solid Rashid. You know, it's just consistent, and he knows his stuff. He knows his frames. He knows his advantages and disadvantages, and I think he just plays the character more solidly than Dual.
All right. So SplicedHelix did touch on this topic earlier, and as a student of psychology, I absolutely enjoy this. This is entertaining as hell. Have a listen at Punk's interaction, the captain's interaction pre-match between Punk and Nephew.
Punk and Nephew, Inferno versus Frost. I want to know what these bans are going to be like. Obviously, if I was going against this team, I think I would probably want to ban the Colleen. What do you think?
Nah, there's no need.
Wow, so who are you going to ban?
I banned Akali, best player on the team, up to snuff. It's nephew's team, but he should not be the captain. Up to snuff should be.
Your response to that, sir?
I mean, I think he's gonna regret that decision, but we'll see.
Wow. All right. At what ban? I mean, obviously, when I look at this team, I think Punk. He's top of the CPT right now. It's mainly Karen. Last year when he wasn't using Karen, obviously things kind of fell apart for him a little bit. So who do you guys want to ban?
We're gonna ban Karen.
Boom! That's what I'm talking about. All right. I like how this is going so far. Now, of course, ban's only one part of it. What is your player order going to be?
Yeah, Broly legs first, me second, and then we saved JB for last. The best for last.
JB, the best for last. What about your guys' player order?
First we have Dual Kevin, then Up to Snuff, then me.
All right, so Dual Kevin up to snuff, and then we've got, of course, Nephew himself. Match about to go down. Don't go anywhere. Street Fighter League continues after this.
All right, so there you heard it. Punk calling out Nephew, calling him not even the best player on his own team. Spend it or save it. Punk calling out Nephew as not even the best player on his team, despite being the captain. SplicedHelix.
Punk is Punk, he got in his head before the match even started. He knew that doing that was going to put enough of a kink in Nephew's play that he was going to get 2-0'd without winning a single round to JB. He knew what he was doing, and it was effective.
Geki, do you like the psychological warfare that Punk is putting on early in this Street Fighter League tournament series?
I'm gonna transform and just say ditto, because goddamn, that was a 3-0 beating. Mentally, you can't come back from that, and you could physically tell that Nephew was drastically affected by what he said, and even he started to believe that he was not the best player on the team, let alone best player to represent anybody on any draft, on any show. So he was extremely broken down before even anything touched the game console or the gamepad. Just game over.
Mortsy, psychological warfare, yay or nay?
I mean, it's a great strategy, but I don't think that Punk was giving Nephew the credit he had. I mean, the whole reason that he's the captain of the team is because he was, I think, was he sixth? Yeah, he was sixth in CPT points for NA, for all of NA. Up to Snuff I didn't even know if it was a thing at that point. He was still a strong player last season, but he wasn't necessarily present in the NA CPT. So, obviously silly. And the thing is, though, you can't even come back for that. Even Nephew was sitting there, you can see the expression on his face, this dude beat me with my own character. What do I even say? I can't come back. I think his rebuttal was good, but it's still damn, dude. Can't. It's hard to make a comeback when that same person has given you an ass whooping.
No, that is, of course, 100% fair. Psychological warfare in real sports also happens the same way. That's where you get newspaper clippings and all the other stuff. Punk just taking it to another level, actually saying it to Nephew's face. Do you agree with Punk that Up to Snuff was the top player on his team, SplicedHelix?
I think it's pretty even between Nephew and Up to Snuff, just based on how they play their characters. As far as standings go, no. Because, he was sixth. Nephew was sixth in CPT points, but Up to Snuff may not travel as much. He may not have the ability to, but whether or not he was wrong, it did its purpose.
Same question, Geki. Who is does Nephew deserve the flack that he got from Punk, and is Up to Snuff actually his peer, his equal?
I think deserves the wrong word, because I think he's just using what he knows his weaknesses, and that's mental game. And based on his reactions, which I said earlier, that he clearly was affected by what Punk said. Up to Snuff also doesn't travel, like Helix was saying. And also, he gets top 3 at Wednesday Night Fights. Every time I see a post about, the top 3 for Street Fighter V Wednesday Night Fights, it's always him in there. And offline practice is much better than online practice, as Nephew was basically an online warrior for the longest time. And not discrediting his offline performance at all, but having more travel opportunities is obviously a better chance to showcase yourself. And I feel like Up to Snuff would get the same level of skill, or at least performance, if he traveled just as much as Nephew. Can't say that for sure because this hasn't happened yet, but I can feel it in my gut, my Geki gut, you know?
All right, Mortsy, last word on it. Does Team Frost have a chance of rebounding?
Yeah, of course. I think they're they have a more distant roster, especially since Up to Snuff started off. Like, I don't think you ban Rashid against them, anyways, because you can either ban Colleen or you can ban the Nakali. And actually, both of those people have like strong secondaries. Up to Snuff demonstrating that he has a strong secondary, almost taking out Punk's Cammy, which was a very good performance. But I don't think like Nephew's still, based on his merit as a player, he's still stronger with tournament results. But Up to Snuff does have. He's literally the online warrior. Got in the online tournament.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was matchup number 2. We're going to delve a little bit deeper into matchup number 3 now. We're going to be talking about our favorite character specialist, tete-a-tete, between Team Storm and Team Psycho. Let's take a look at this first clip.
Idom all the way to match point right now. He has to make it happen if he wants to survive here.
Once again. And now those cross-ups coming from Just a Kid have been so effective.
Big time punish, yeah. The entire team yelled at us and got big time punish. Okay, no conversion there from Idom. Gets a straight hit and then backs away.
It blocks the target, but nothing big. You see Idom just taking his time. But he's still trying to control that corner and keep Just a Kid there, but just slowly inching in and out of that corner, and full CA on top of that.
Ooh, the overhead. That's the activation route. Yeah, Just a Kid catching Idom from way back. It's an air. That was slick. Good block there from Idom as well. Activation. Up chain.
Look how slow that V-Trigger 1 goes down.
Oh, the conversion of the confirmed from Just a Kid is just too good.
Wow.
He plays like an old man, got the reactions of a youngin'. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Oh, overlay. Where are you?
Felix,
Nope.
I see you shaking your head.
All right. So that was Idom's birdie. Saw the end result right there between Team Storm and Team Psycho. Idom's face, of course, his reactions absolutely speak volumes with regards to the actual tournament format, which we get to discuss in this one, especially with these two matchups, where it was literally just character specialists all the way through. Now, while adding a layer of strategy behind picking your characters with the bans, for both of these teams specifically, this seems to be a major hindrance, and the ban seems to take away sort of the high-end entertainment value of, hey, this was Idom, who was, what was it, 4th or 5th? No, it was 5th, or 4th, excuse me.
I think it was 4th.
Was it 4th? Yeah. So it was 4th in standings with, or CPT standings, but none of that was obviously with the birdie. Everything was with the Laura. We might not even see this Laura for the entire tournament. A couple of questions for you guys on this final round topic. One, should the ban rules be changed so that this doesn't happen and a player just doesn't get taken away from a tournament entirely? And how will this affect attendance in future tournaments for future invitees? Let's start with SplicedHelix.
I don't think it should be changed, really. The problem more that I feel with these two teams, you ban Laura and you ban Bison, and a third of the team is just done. I think that falls more on the players than it does the format. You've got look at Punk, look at Justin Wong, look at NuckleDu. They've got so many characters that it kind of almost takes the ban out of the equation. It doesn't really, because look what happened to Justin. But it's more of put all your eggs into 2 baskets instead of 1. So if you ban Laura, the dude's like, okay, yeah, you ban that character, but I got something for you. That's not the case. You ban Laura, and the dude goes, I'll play Birdie, I guess. And we saw how that went with both of them.
Okay, so Mortsy, any changes that you would make to the character ban, or would you just continue this strategy? And how the heck does IDOM even get his way out of this?
Man, we have known about the ban system for like how long before the actual SFL started? Like it was like at least a month and a half. We knew who was getting in because it's not like he had to qualify. He didn't have to get voted in. Both Toy, it's not even like just IDOM. Both Toy and IDOM, the two captains, knew they were getting into this, and they have nothing. That or they just coincidentally picked the same character who I think, although I would like to say that IDOM's birdie was just leagues above Toys, because that was bad.
There was a reason I picked the IDOM clip instead of the Toy clip for the birdie, but no, keep going.
But no, I think the ban system, like, you knew it was there. It was your job to prepare. As your captain, you have a responsibility to prepare. But I think that IDOM's Laura wasn't necessarily bad. And actually, in that round, he had Laura. His birdie wasn't that bad. He had control of the round until, well, I guess Justin could put himself in the corner. But once he was in the corner, he had control. And either that's a testament to how dumb birdie is, or that there's actually a foundation for the birdie for IDOM. Justin Kid had the bar at the end. Mind you, it was still 4 rounds. But I think the format's fine. The format is fantastic, in fact. I think it's really cool. Especially now that now that we know the format in its entirety and that it is possible for a single person to carry, because it really makes the ban significant. So I still love the format, man. I think it's great. And I don't necessarily think it'll change how people will campaign or how people, because 12 of the slots are taken, regardless of popularity or how people will, whether or not they have a secondary, right? It's not like the online tournament's going to be, you have to use your secondary. You cannot use your most played character. It'll only really matter for the campaign, and I don't think it'll matter for the campaign, basically. I think people are still going to get voted in based on their fan base, like we've seen here with Brian F., Chakotay, and Shine getting in purely based on, well, not purely, they're still very strong players, but they have a good following.
All right, so Geki, my question to you then, as a consumer of the product, are you worried that you're not getting the best that you could possibly get out of this product because you essentially, one of your marquee top 6 people aren't showing up at this tournament at all? Are you worried about that as a consumer?
I mean, I definitely am, because I think the format forces people to make quick decisions. But again, I have to agree with these guys at the end of the day, because how long did we know about this format? This was agreed upon. And especially in IDOM's case and Toy's case, where Mortsy mentioned that, you were guaranteed already. It's not like you had a process. You're like, oh, maybe I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah. And I got to say, Toy and IDOM's birdie, I think literally what happened is they were both in training mode. And then they're like, oh, let's try birdie's trials in the challenge mode. And then IDOM was the one playing. So that's why he can land the combos a bit more consistently than Toy. And then Toy just watched, and they're like, yeah, let's both use Birdie as a side character. And they're like, yeah! And then they high-fived, and then they went to play. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the ban, because I think it forces some interesting picks on the side of people that only have one character, according to, the mass FGC and their awareness of the players. But seeing some of the people, like, the 2 I just mentioned, play another character at that low of a level, where it's almost like I could pick up this character in 5 minutes and play twice as good as them, is kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? And I'm sure a lot of people think that are worse than probably all of us combined. So I don't know. It's questionable, but I think it's going to be a good format. I think it's interesting.
There was certainly a lot of hate during the IDOM, during the Storm Psycho set. What I think would have been ideal, especially because it wasn't necessarily like, oh, we only have one match where these guys are playing the secondaries. It was 2 separate best-of-3s that had to be played out, where we're watching subpar Street Fighter. That is supposed to represent the best of our best of the North America, or I guess the United States league, right, are the United States players. These are supposed to be our representation, and they're two guys who are terrible. But, I mean, the whole point of a system is to spice it up and to have something cool. So it's as much entertainment as it is an actual competitive league. So I'm like, yeah, there's that side of it. But there was like Twitter was lighting up, man. There were some people that were not happy about watching that birdie on either team.
Yeah, so it was brought up, and I'm gonna shout out these guys for doing this, just a new idea for content creation. But Automatic, Javits, and Born Free were talking about the bans and agreed with the Twitterverse on how terrible these matchups were to watch. If you could come up with sort of a hot fix solution to this, what would it be? I'm throwing this out to anybody because I don't actually have a response order for you guys. I just came up with that now. So.
I think an easy way to do it would be you can only ban a player's character once. So like the second time around, the second time you play that team, you have to ban somebody else.
Other thoughts, guys? Anyone else?
I was thinking something similar that you could only ban can't ban the same character twice against the same team. That makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels you would have to do that from the start. One, because then teams might change the way they ban initially. Like let's ban this guy this time, but we'll save the lower ban for the second time we fight them instead of the first time. But yeah, other than that, there's not really a clean solution to the banning.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point to have brought up, especially if, let's say, down the road, it goes down to this particular matchup against Storm and Psycho. Let's say it was for the last spot in the playoff area, and you're just like, oh, we can't ban Laura anymore, or oh, strategically we held off this ban specifically because we knew we were going to play against Team Storm much later on. It's another sort of layer and depth of strategy that they could explore, but they can't do it for the first two seasons now because this first season obviously has to set the precedent, and it's 2 seasons worth of qualifiers for this one. Geki, last word.
I actually have a unique idea, and you can do it 2 ways. You can either, instead of banning just character bans for each team, you could ban matchups or ban player matchups. So basically what I mean is that you can ban, like let's say the first match we had, right? It was Team Spirit against Team Gale. So let's say if for the player matchup, you can ban Brian F facing off against like Knuckledew, for example. Let's say like one team doesn't want that match to happen, and then the other team picks another player match they don't want to happen, and then somehow they decide maybe a coin flip, rock, paper, scissors, whatever, maybe some sort of mini game or whatever, or draw straws, and then the winner gets to decide that player matchup.
Well, I mean, email the
same
teacher.
thing. Huh?
I want to email the teacher. Hey, can I not be in this person's group?
Yeah. That's the kind of idea, right? Or you can also do for character matchups, right? Like, oh, if these two characters cannot fight, and maybe like for example they have to be agreed upon, or it can be like a draw straws kind of situation. I think that would be more interesting because then some character specialists can really shine still at the same time, but also would force a lot more interesting situations than forcing a character specialist to just use a crappy secondary.
You could take all 3 of those things, both of the things that you said, and then the one that we were talking about, and you can only pick one of those. You can either ban a character matchup, a player matchup, or only have one character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think the only issue from a consumer standpoint, especially if you're taking a look at Toy and IDOM for potential sponsorship opportunities, this was supposed to be a big coming out opportunity for these 2 players specifically. They are invited top Capcom Pro Tour point getters for the US Pro League, and they don't even exist in this tournament. I think that's kind of something that needs to be addressed for the future of the future tournaments moving forward. Not just sort of the first 2, but just moving forward afterwards, because more and more people, let's say, because on the Capcom Pro Tour, you're always going to get like the top 6 North American players. Not a lot of them are going to play different characters going into the following season or the previous season rather. They sort of stick to their mains, and if they get invited to something like this or an event like this, and this rule is still sort of in play, and they realize based on the team that they could possibly have that they don't even really get to play in the tournament, that would turn a lot of people off from even attending, wouldn't it not?
I personally believe that it looks bad on the player side and also the format side as well, because if the goal of the format is to bring you the best competition, the best competitiveness, and the best players out from a specific region and showcase them on a platform that is entertaining, engaging, and kind of giving them as big of an audience as possible, then I think having a character ban is a failure of that format. However, if it's to entertain, and then it's perfect. But at the same time, it's also on the players as well, because like Mortsy and Helix have said before, they knew going into this that there was going to be bans. They were captains of their team, so how could you expect your character not to get banned when you were the strongest player on that team? So it also looks bad on the players' side too, because then if potential sponsors are looking at them, maybe they think, oh, they're not committed enough to learn another character. Maybe they're stubborn. There's many bad factors that can come from that too. So
I think a lot of what they were going for with the team format and the bans is to just prevent it from being another CPT tournament. If you take those things out, it's just another top 8 with more than 8 people.
Definitely. It's totally on the players to not they should have had a character ready.
Mm-hmm.
They should have had a character ready. I don't necessarily think this is hurting them. I think this is going to help them immensely, regardless, because before this, the only time I'd ever heard Toy talk, I'd literally never heard Toy talk before. 2, I've never heard Idom talk before. He just looks super stoic and never changes facial expression. So this is we get a window into who these guys are, and so do sponsors. They are getting so much exposure as artists. It pains me to say that word.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting so much exposure, and not clout necessarily, but everyone is going to know who these people are. Well, most people should already know who they are if you're not watching NLDC, and I don't even know if Texas streams their locals. They probably do, and I think it's showing. But you're getting Toy is so much personality. That dude is a goon. He freaking somersaulted after they won.
He is a bison meme.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing, right? It's we're getting to see this player's personality, and that is going to be huge for them. So I think this is doing everything that they wanted to, especially the online warriors, Up the Snuff and Dual Kevin and Just a Kid. These guys are getting such fantastic exposure, especially when they're actually winning.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Idom and Toy. But this is fantastic. I don't even if they're shit in the bed, it's because they're not getting to use their main character. So this is irrelevant for the rest of the really.
Yeah. So you're talking about Idom's expression never changes, but I think his face spoke volumes when it came to what happened at the previous.
That was perfect segue. That was fantastic.
Yeah, he definitely did speak volumes, and I think what Toy did to take full advantage of his end of it, of course, was to make up for lack of birdie skill with a whole bunch of personality, and I think we got a whole bunch of that right there. We're actually going to see a little bit of that in the next clip. This is our last topic to talk about. We're going to be talking about Just a Kid and his run on Team Psycho.
Just a Kid is really good with those confirms to go into critical art, but he might use it for EX. Who knows? But Samurai, a crucial error there, putting him at the deficit.
Game, match, team battle point right now. Damn, once again, you cannot be that close to him. That standing.
My man Toy scared everybody in the room.
Okay, walk up, Pull forward in the fireball. Not going to get it knocked
like
down
that.
just to get through. It's not a true block stream.
Good awareness. Look at the damage plus the carry. Spending 2 bars, well worth it for Just a Kid because this man's a battery the way he recharges his CA.
And look, gets the corner as well. Demon Flip actually falls out the EX. We haven't seen too many.
Oh.
We haven't seen too many EXs.
The ground game is what Samurai needs to focus on. Still managed to get the air approach, the fierce connecting it to Just a Kid. Activation of the trigger is gonna be a lot of damage. He goes through with the pinwheel and he finishes it up. Just a Kid eliminating Team Storm.
That's my boy! Let's go! That's my boy! Look it! Let's go! Let's move.
That's my boy.
All right.
That's my boy.
So we like we talked about earlier, we got to see a lot of Toy's personality at the end of that one. But more importantly, Team Psycho was down 2-1. Just a Kid had to beat Samurai. He was the PAX West 2017 E-League Amateur Series champion. I commentated that event, and I watched how well Samurai played, and he had to beat and he had to beat Classico before that to get there.
And he's already beaten.
Yeah. So, Just a Kid, is he the real deal? And if you are looking at Team Psycho right now, do you even consider banning Jury off of Just a Kid? Geki.
I would 100% ban Jury. That character is such a threat. Not only because Just a Kid is super amazing. Like, you notice the spacing he had in that matchup, the awareness of Samurai's habits, and the way he hit confirmed off of every situation he got. Not only that, Jury is super underplayed as a character across all aspects, like online, CPT, majors, locals. You don't see that character unless you know a person that plays that character. And not only that, at that level. So 100% you ban Jury next time. 100%.
SplicedHelix.
Oh yeah, I've had problems with Jury since she was put in the game, and nobody ever understood why. You play Kyle, why do you have problems with Jury? She's slept on a lot, and there's not like Geki said, there's not a whole lot of people that play her, so you don't get a whole lot of practice against her, especially if all you have is online. You know, there's what, maybe 6-7 Jury specialists on the CPT board above top 400. It's crazy, and people just don't know, and it shows because Just a Kid was definitely MVP of that set.
Yeah, Mortsy, you have a stoic look on your face, like you're saying these guys are crazy. Are they crazy? Do you let Toy have Bison?
No. No, not a chance. I think some teams might let Toy have Bison. Some teams that are more comfortable with that. I think that the better teams, so Spirit, Storm, Spirit, Gale, and Inferno will ban the Bison. I don't think they'll ban the Jury because they'll be most likely confident. I could see the other teams banning Jury. Maybe, but I might be completely out of base because I don't know who they play personally. Just being, he's like mid-east or something, or just East Coast, East Side. Not that we've somehow matched up online before. But I don't think Just Kid's dope. Dude, he's so good. He's so good. But I still think Toy, like, he was 6th on the, or 5th on the XPT for a reason. Dude is a very strong Bison player. So I think you stick it with the Just a Kid. I don't think that the teams that we saw were taking advantage of Jury's weaknesses. I think that their match of unfamiliarity came in very huge, especially in that last set. We saw multiple, 2 things at the end there. One, Samurai threw a fireball that got EX pinwheeled, which he has 2 bars, and he threw a fireball. And the second is he tried to interrupt Jury while she had charges. there's no world where Just a Kid doesn't cancel heavy kick release. So I think the unfamiliarity. I mean, Just a Kid's still really, really good, but I think that the unfamiliarity in Team Psycho's roster kind of led to them winning. Also, I thought it was really funny that Toy pops off like a monster. Chakotay is kind of just wandering around, also popping off and yelling, and Just a Kid hasn't even gotten up yet.
He's just a boy.
Popping off, and Just a Kid's like, yeah, that was dope. Yeah.
And nobody had an answer for Shine's jury either. So
Yeah, it's really interesting that the highlight of week 2 here, or they called it week 2. I still think it should be match day 1, but they call it week 2. The highlight of week 2 was the play of both players who were playing jury, which is really, really interesting. Geki, both you and I had a chance to commentate a matchup with Just a Kid over at PSG before Evo, the pre-Evo event, and we saw how good this jury actually is. Do you really, really believe that that you could warrant banning jury over Toy and Bison in this case, or even Mika and Chakotay?
That's true. And of course, Chakotay had beaten Tokido and kind of blew up even more, aside from his Twitch following and social media, all that sort of stuff, and got a little more respect. Even though there was a bunch of people that kind of pooped on him, to like saying that, oh, it's Mika, it's random, it's just lucky, it was a fluke, blah blah blah. Like, you've heard it all. That always happens when. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Right. Yeah. But Just a Kid doesn't travel. So I think the reason why people like Mortsy, not to shame you or anything, are giving Toy the bigger threat, and he's also the captain too, mind you, right? But at the same time, when a player hasn't traveled much, I think they're even more threatening than a player who is in the leaderboards, has been to majors, has been around, and you don't know what they're capable of. And on top of that, the character is not played. Bison is a top 8 character, universally accepted. People know that matchup since season 3. At the very
Bison players are there though that are actually succeeding on the outside of Problem X?
I mean,
Maybe
Tampa
Hot Dog?
Bison
Not in the
is
top
amazing.
10.
Not in the top 10 though. Like, there's Tampa Bison, but he's another player who doesn't travel and no one knows how he plays. Adarga is switching to him now. I still think that Bison is not nearly as familiar to these people as. Well, obviously, jury's like no one plays jury.
yeah, there's no.
That's what I
telling.
mean.
It's not comparable, but I don't think Bison isn't as familiar, and Toy isn't, like, Jessica isn't. I still think that Toy is more of a threat against Bison, and Bison's also just a much stronger character.
SplicedHelix, last word on this.
I think it was fantastic. I think it's just jury. Unfamiliarity with everybody. Against her, what to do against her, what to do against people that you don't know how they play with her. I think the lack of actual tape to study is a perfect bonus for jury players. But I don't think they'll switch bands. If they do, then Toy gets to play his game, and we've seen how Toy plays Bison. He's won a couple of different things, and I'm not sure that's a risk you want to take against jury. Seeing how jury plays and where she is in the season.
Yeah, no, that's 100% fair. But do you guys think that should this continue, does Team Psycho actually have a shot at this if they can get carried by this jury from Just a Kid, if it is in fact as real as we are discussing? And this will be the last word on that topic. Start with Mortsy.
I think it's actually really interesting because all three, if they're playing their mains, have a chance to carry. Except if Chakotay ends up getting Punk again. Because I've never realized just how terrible the Karen matchup is for Mika. It looked literally impossible. But it's interesting because all three of them are strong if they get their characters. But I don't know how well they'll do against the stronger teams, and we'll see this week.
Geki, any last thoughts on Just a Kid's jury and how he could possibly do, potentially carrying Team Psycho moving forward in this tournament?
I think when Toy finishes the character trials for Birdie, I think he's gonna do much better. But the thing is, honestly, on a serious note, I will say that regarding what Mortsy said earlier in the podcast is that if this was recorded as a one go kind of session versus it's being recorded every week, so there's gaps in between recording, so people have time to lab, research, practice, improve. If it's the former, then I think Jury will be an incredibly big threat in this tournament because of, you know, Shine and Just a Kid, right? And you're gonna have to ban Bison. I agree. Like on paper, that makes sense, but if you're comfortable fighting Jury, like by all means, go for it. But because this is, it's not the classic, you know, team tournament format that you're used to seeing, and you have to eliminate everyone on the team at some point. So you're gonna run into the Jury at some point, right? So it really just depends if you're that comfortable against Jury. So if it's the latter though option where, you know, there's gaps in between, then I 100% respect the choice to keep banning Bison, because you can learn Jury. You can those situations that happen against Samurai, you can 100% practice those in a day, get comfortable in another day, and then execute on that game plan. So,
all right, SplicedHelix, anything to add?
I'm pretty sure it was all done in one weekend, from everything I've heard. But I mean, there's time in between to practice or set up a strategy against certain characters. But I don't think Just a Kid can carry that team through any of the top three teams that we all think are the top three. You know, I don't see him beating Gale. I don't see them beating Inferno, and you know, maybe not for Frost. Yeah, I don't see it. They got they got lucky because they were up against Storm and they took out Laura. You know, if you do that, you go up against Justin Wong, you take out Karen or Minot, and he's got Karen, he's got Falk, he's got whoever. But I don't think that it'll end up the same way against any of those teams at all.
All right, so that is it for our our week 2 analysis and breakdown of Street Fighter League. We get to go back to week 1 just for a little bit, because as Mortsy mentioned previously, we did get the format and how they executed it incorrectly during draft day when we were talking about how this would potentially work out. So I'm going to give each of the panelists one last chance to get on or off any kind of fence that they might be on. Let me remind you of the picks, the pre-draft or the post-draft analysis from these 3 panelists. Mortsy did pick Team Gale, who looked really, really good on week 2. Geki, subscriber to the Church of Lame, picked Team Spirit. That did not go so well. And of course, SplicedHelix, A4 homies for life, went back to Punk and picked Team Inferno. So guys, the last word for tonight. Are you getting off of the fence and changing your pick? Let's start with the one who looks really, really in the tank right now. We'll start with Geki.
So I'm not a betting man. I am terrible at casinos. I'm terrible at betting on who's going to win.
Just a bad luck, man.
I have bad luck in any terms of gambling. That's why I lose to 50-50s in the corner, right? So yeah, I'm 100% throwing them in the trash, leaving them there. I'm going to recycle them. I'm going to put an application to move to another city. I don't want to be in that same ecosystem. I don't want to be on that same planet. I'm going to take the next flight to the moon. So I'm going to go with Team Gale.
Oh my goodness. If I had a mute button, I would be slamming it so hard, and if I was arbitrarily scoring all of your arguments, you'd be in like the negative 500. SplicedHelix, what do you got?
Dang, you just went all in, Geki, didn't you? You took that from top tier to like Mortal Kombat 4. I'm staying with Inferno. I don't. You know, if you beat Punk, then you have a chance. If you don't, then you don't.
All right, Mortsy. Yeah, Mortsy, last word. You're looking good right now, though.
I am feeling good right now, man. My team did fantastic. I couldn't have coached them better myself. I do think it will be interesting to see how the bans play out now that teams know who has what in terms of secondaries, whether or not end up swapping. It also depends. What could be interesting is whether or not they filmed these in the order we're seeing them.
This is true as well. Yeah.
If they didn't, then we could be seeing, who knows, we could be seeing the last week that for some reason got shown first. I don't think that'll be the case. That would be hilarious, which means that these would be the adaptions that we're seeing, and this is all hypothetical. And this would also really mean terribly that that's the peak of IDOM and Toy Birdie, as opposed to like the tail, as opposed to the start of it. But I can't imagine that'd be the case. It isn't such a thought. But yeah, no, I'm sick with Gale. Gale's dope. I'm
Toga
with Bank, Geki, Wagon, Jerk, terrible.
Hey, I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson.
Because now what's going to happen now is Spirit wins.
Okay, so SplicedHelix did bring up a point. I put it in the chat after our post-production episode 1 who my pick was, but I never said it on the air. And I would actually if I took off all the overlays and showed the whole chat, so it actually makes sense.
There's a bunch of room in the bandwagon if you want to join.
I am 100% on that bandwagon. It is obviously the depth in on that roster. We talked about it in episode 1. Mortsy went into it in great detail. He even managed to predict the first ban off of this team, and it didn't matter. If it doesn't matter which character you're going to ban off of Team Gale and they are winning as dominantly as you're seeing, you have no other reason to pick anyone else unless Punk decides he's going to carry everybody. My heart pick is Team Inferno. My head pick is Team Gale.
Bring it on, Canada.
I will say one thing though.
Yeah.
Is that I immediately dropped Team Spirit when I saw Shine's jury, because my concern was one player is susceptible to character ban and being completely neutered, like Team Storm, like Team Psycho, right? But when
even Inferno.
Yeah, even Inferno, right, to some degree. But when I saw that wasn't the case, they're just now the best team on the draft.
Yeah, and no, it's just interesting because we go through all of the matchups from week 2, excuse me. We go through all the matchups from week 2, and the only team that wasn't really hampered by the ban in any sort of way was Team Gale. And I don't know if that's luck of the draw or because Rob TV falling into NuckleDude's lap at the end ended up working out wondrously. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't even close. Like, even if you put Punk's Cammy versus Punk's Karen, I mean, we've seen Punk's Karen throughout CPT this year. There's no reason to believe that Punk's Cammy can do better than Punk's Karen, right?
I would say that I think that both Team Frost and Inferno, and honestly Spirit, weren't hampered by the ban. I would say if Spirit got hampered because of Justin's character. I think no world should he have picked Falk. But I also think that Rob got not lucky, but Gale kind of got lucky in the he got robbed. Like Rob robbed Team Spirit because he knows Justin. Apparently, it seems like he knows how Justin wants to play. So yeah, I do think that Frost wasn't very hampered because Octostomp has a very strong Akuma. Inferno, it's like you could say that they're hampered, both Frost and Inferno, but it's more like they weren't as amazing as they could have been, but they were still
correct.
Sick.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do with Inferno? You ban one of the character specialist characters, you have to deal with Punk's Karen.
Yeah. So, I don't necessarily think they were hampered. They're worse than they could have been, but they were still pretty good, those two teams. Spirit was more... Obviously, they could still be better with Justin Manat, but playing Falk, not necessarily. Unless he has, like, a better game plan. Because he was doing super well until he got put in the corner and then he lost. Also, holy shit, Sorry.
That's
Holy
okay.
crap, EX Orochi does an absurd amount of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that combo, he spent 1 bar and it was like 350 life. That was an absurd combo. So yeah, I think that, I think that's still Gale. Gale's so good. But the bans weren't as bad outside of Storm and Psycho.
Yeah, no, that's true. We've gone way over time here, but I do have one other thing, because we were talking about how the bans affected sort of every single matchup, and I do want to touch on this before we go, because we're going to be seeing more of this in the coming weeks with the remaining matches as well. How much of a factor did player order play in this? Like, having Punk go twice, having Just a Kid in the position that he was in as well. Did that play a factor at all, do you guys think? And I'll leave that question open to anybody who wants to answer first.
I think the team captain in second is going to probably be a trend from now on. Honestly, if they're going to win anyway, it wouldn't really matter. And it's all, I'm pretty sure it's blind pick beforehand, so you don't really have a way to strategize that outside of who's going to play twice if necessary.
Any other thoughts, Geki, Mortsy?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Helix. I think that's going to be probably the most popular thing because it's a safe bet. Unless they're really well aware of how the other team is going to pick, most likely, based on players, based on matchups. I think we're going to just see the team captain going second.
Okay, last word, Mortsy.
Interesting that you say if some kind of, I mean, it's a meta that develops, right? Where you send your captain second, then everyone just starts doing their best matchup by putting the person who does the best against the captain second. And then you start getting people who start swapping it around because they know, hey, they think I'm going to put my captain second, so I'm going to put someone else there. And then you just end up with this ridiculous rock, paper, it's literally rock, paper, scissors, a lot of it. Some of the teams are rock, paper, scissors. Other ones are like, Storm and Psycho are playing rock, paper, scissors without one of the things.
No, that's fair.
In the initial matchups they are, because they got, Just a Kid was able to carry it out, where apparently Just a Kid was Dynamite. But in the order, if some sort of meta develops where they throw their captain second, that's bad, because it's bad for the team where they're like, they just settle with that, because then everyone just starts putting their best matchup on the second slot. So you have to be careful about a meta. You can't have a meta develop, but you kind of have to just go with whatever the rock, paper, scissors is. You just have to be, it's all about reading your opponent. I do think this week was just completely random.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It does, the only part where you get to choose is if you have 2 people win and only one person win on the other team. That is such a huge advantage because you get to pick the matchup. Mm-hmm. The other team doesn't get the chance. So that is the only time. I think we only saw that with Team Inferno versus Frost, where Inferno won twice, and instead of choosing JB, they chose Punk to play up against Dual Kevin.
Okay.
So as opposed to go for the mirror, they went for Punk taking it over him.
All right, and then last thing, or I guess we're still going to be discussing a little bit more. Wow, we're way over time. Anyways, with the player order, the other thing, of course, that was important was sort of how they rolled over with matchups. So even after Punk had won, for instance, they still had to roll over to the next player and etc. Do you guys like how that worked?
As in, like, everyone has to play once before we get the actual playoff round kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it works, because you don't end up, like, with any weird matchups, essentially. Like, it wouldn't matter, though, as well. It wouldn't be like, well, what do you think? Like, if someone wins, they have to sit? Like, what alternatives are there to this format?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we're going to go back to the Inferno and Frost matchup, because, how did it go? It went, I keep forgetting the exact order.
It was Broly Legs lost game 1 against Dual Kevin.
Yeah, so...
Punk, and then Punk, JB, Punk. Punk beating Up the Stuff, BB beating Nephew, and then Punk beating Dual Kevin.
Yeah, but, so the only other way I would think about it is after JB won, they would have a choice, but because of the player order, they didn't, and Punk got to play again. Do you guys agree with that? You know what I mean? Like,
as in, like, because JB had just played, he
correct.
can't play.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I think it's just rolling.
it's a rolling player order. That's sort of how it worked. That's what I was.
See, I thought they could decide.
No,
Okay,
they didn't
I think
decide.
that's-
They did not decide. No.
I think it's better actually because that way there's no like super cheese matchups. Like if you were to get Classico somehow like being the winner against Team Psycho, where they end up with Mika last.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess it would be Justikid if Justikid and Chakotay win. And Classico's the only person left. You pick Chakotay because that matchup is abysmal for Urien, right?
Mm-hmm.
This way, even though Jury would have to go. Like, it would just be silly being able to be like, I just picked this 6-4 matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it a lot. I think it's a better way of doing it where the control is out of the hands of the players, give them more advantage. And it's more entertaining for us because if we get an even matchup, eventually he's going to have to go through that player anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? This way we get more Street Fighter, we get more matchups that we might not see. I like it.
All right, last word goes to Geki.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with Mortsy. I like this format. I like everyone playing everyone, and then kind of, weeding off the week afterwards. I think it's a great way to determine who has the best team.
Yikes, that's a little harsh, isn't it? Weeding out the weak in the top.
Weeding out the weak.
Wow.
Listen to how he talked about his team.
I know, he threw them in the garbage. Nearest
In the
recycling
context.
bin.
I'm not saying they're weak globally. I'm just saying in the
Oh, man.
context of what we're talking about, the weakest team will fall.
This is my believe you face.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I want to thank my panel for joining me today on Beyond the Fist. You guys can follow them on Twitter. We have an overlay thanks to Geki, and we actually put it together and had it all work out. If you guys watched the pre-production stream that we did to hear our conversations and talking about stuff, we're going to start doing that a little bit more, maybe even do a post-production stream, not today, because we've gone over time as it is already. So I want to thank my panel, Geki, Mortsy, and SplicedHelix. And just a reminder to everybody, all video footage from today's livecast is used with permission from Capcom. Follow the SFL and the Capcom Pro Tour on Twitch at twitch.tv/CapcomFighters. On YouTube, youtube.com/Capcom Fighters, and on Facebook Live, facebook.com/Capcom Fighters. You guys will see what we see beyond our fists next week. SFL airs on Thursday, and you will see, if you guys are going to Northwest Majors, you will see both Mortsy and myself there this weekend over in Seattle. So if you do get a chance to say hi to us, please do so, and I hope you guys are watching the podcast. Yeah, find that Fong hoodie is absolutely amazing, the one that he's wearing. So if you get a chance to say hi, please do say hi to us. We appreciate it.
Shout out to Raven. GG.
We appreciate any feedback that we can get here on Beyond the Fist. If you ever want to be part of this show as well, you can send me a direct message on Twitter. You see my Twitter there on the bottom right. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.
Take care.